Hello, everyone. This is a Double OG's podcast. Unfortunately, 007 could not make it today, but we have got a guest who's, I'm sure, going to make up for it. His name is Justin, and he's from the Dominance Academy. And we've got another member of the Dark Triad, our friend Chris, who is also specialized in the same field as Justin. So today's show is most likely going to be about just the field of dominance, BDSM, and everything that is circling around that theme. So what we're going to do is we're going to, ask questions about Justin, about what he does, how he helps his clients, but also what are the problematics underlying what issues people come to him for, right? And we're going to have Chris discuss as well with him what different type of problematic they find in, let's say, established BDSM setups. But first of all, Justin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, first of all, thanks to you and James for reaching out to me. It was a pleasant surprise, and it's always good to meet other gentlemen who are in the field of dating, relationships, human interaction, and try to help people out. Because that's my main focus is just helping men as best I can and using my time in that way. So yeah, thank you guys for reaching out. And just a little bit about me. I am the owner and lead coach for the Dominance Academy. And this is an academy for men and couples who want to bring power dynamics into the relationships. It's mostly for those who are into traditional setups, where the man has his specific roles, the woman has her specific roles, and they don't interact or they don't cross over in a democratic sense. And yeah, so I've been doing this for the last couple of years, specifically focusing on DD, which is like domestic discipline, and BDSM, power dynamics. And prior to that, I was a dating coach, and I did that for a number of years. And I got out of it because first of all, the market is saturated. And secondly, I was getting tired of just dealing with the same stuff over and over, right? Guys who come to me, they have no social skills, they've got insecurities, they've got mommy issues, they've got daddy issues, they've got all kinds of issues coming up, and they just simply are afraid of women. They have no mouthpiece, they have no sense of themselves, and just dealing with the same things over and over and over just started to get to me. So I was like, you know what? I want to get into relationships, because once these guys spend dating and they get into relationships, that's when the lights turned on for me, because that's when you have the great stuff between a man and a woman, that interaction and all the variables that happen in there. And that's when I got excited. So I was like, all right, my focus has got to be relationships and sexuality, especially.
Okay, and what about you, Chris? What made you go into that into that field?
Yeah, I mean, and some of you guys might know me. I have appeared on the podcast a few sessions ago. I'm Chris. I'm Master Zephyr on X. I'm in a similar role, very much to Justin. I help guys with customize their relationships to suit their needs, to empower themselves. I specialize mainly in sort of total power exchange relationships, master and slave, dominant and submission as well. But my main focus is on helping these guys empower themselves and become stronger versions of themselves by having those relationships where they have the responsibility and where they are in a position of power and where they can grow, and not just grow themselves, but also provide a lot of women with men who they can submit to, who know what they're doing. Because there's a hell of a lot of girls going around right now who, they're looking for guys who know what they're doing. They're looking for guys who can handle themselves in the bedroom and can be the leader of a relationship. Sometimes these girls don't know that they want that. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know it's the best for them. But fact is that when they meet those guys, they fall into that feminine role. And a lot of the problems with society, the way I see it, is that there's not enough women in that feminine role. So if I can go around, if I can empower these guys, if I can help them get over their issues, if I can help them take charge of their relationships through BDSM, through understanding of power dynamics, then we can help men, we can help young men grow into better versions of themselves, and also provide a lot of these lost women with with men who can give them that structure that they need. So that's what I specialize in.
So very, very similar to both of you. And it's very interesting you bring in this, because I think in terms of thematics, what I've found myself, right, on the field, two different dynamics, right? The rise of the masculine woman, where they front load the fact that they're masculine in a way to basically get rid of all those, iffy guys and whatnot, right? I even had to deal with an alpha woman today, right? And I had to force myself, for her to fucking submit before I told her to fuck off, because I don't want any of that bullshit. But those women, as you said, Chris, right? They need to basically fall into the feminine, but the threshold is higher because a guy needs to know what the fuck he's doing, not only inside the bedroom, but outside. So she qualifies herself to be feminine again. And the second thematics that I found was the level of imagination and the level of, let's say, crazy fantasies to your average man that they bring on. I remember I was speaking with an OF girl one day, and she was telling me about the different fantasies she had. One basically being abducted and going to a van, and literally being, physically powered against. And even the one where literally she was forced on going down on a guy with a, so this is a level of shit that basically guys have no fucking clue. And if you're not in any way versed in that field, you're potentially completely striking yourself out of the market, because you think that it's only maybe segmented area, but actually there's a lot of untold fantasies that women don't say, obviously because of stigma or even because of social convention. And I think you have something to say about this, Justin.
Well, yeah. Also, I would put in there danger, because we all know that side of a woman absolutely exists, right? So I laugh when I hear guys talk about the so-called female nature, and they only focus on the negative. So we only know, and every person on the planet only knows to the extent of their experience. You can't know something that you don't know, right? So if that's all you experience of women, then that's all you're going to be able to talk about. So obviously when someone's bitching about the negative side of female nature, then you say, then obviously that's all they've ever experienced. Okay. We know that there's a whole other world in there beyond those things that those guys are criticizing. Okay. So when you're there and you have this knowledge of female behavior, and part of their nature is to, kind of touched on what you described with that, the OnlyFans girl, they can't let that out because they know that the vast majority of guys, A, can't handle it to their ego, or B, they're going to be a bit psychopathic and go at them in the wrong way. Right. So if a woman walked down the street and she just had a sign around her neck and said, "I love being choked until I start seeing stars, say hi to me," that would be an extremely dangerous thing for her to do. Right. So she, even though that may be something she absolutely loves, she cannot display that to the world because it's a mixed bag. She has no idea. And it's not even a mixed bag. It's the majority of the marbles in the bag are going to be something that's potentially harmful, versus the small number of marbles in the bag that would actually know how to handle that aspect of her.
Yeah, and it goes back to there's a lot of elements of the female nature that a lot of guys don't know, but there's a lot of elements that of the female nature that when guys find out about, they can't handle. And this is where you end up with a lot of these incels, a lot of these MGTOW types. They're guys who have seen female nature in its darkness, and they've seen how women treat some men better than others. They've seen how women will often hide elements of their nature from from men, and they've seen how society will even help them hide it. And they, rather than, this goes back to something that French talked about in a podcast that I was in a few sessions ago. He talked about reframing, and he talked about how you can look at something, and you can look at something in a positive light, or you can look at something in a negative light. And there's a hell of a lot of these guys who come across female nature and they say, okay, well, women will hide their nature from the vast majority of men. They will put on an act. Women will treat dominant men. They will submit to dominant men. They will allow them freedoms with them that they would not allow with other men. And these guys are getting depressed about it. And the reason, I think these guys need to follow French and start reading some of his fucking posts, because they could just simply reframe it as a case of, okay, female nature is like that. They do hide elements of their nature from us. But once you know about that, you know how to proceed then. If a woman likes dominant men, and you know that, then it becomes a case of, rather than sitting there and complaining about it, why don't you learn how to do that effectively? Why don't you learn how to bring those elements of yourself out so that then you can get the rewards? Don't just sit there and complain about all these chads, all these bad boys, all these dominant men going around choking women and having harems and having threesomes and stuff. Don't just sit there on the sidelines, right? If you're one of these MGTOW guys, or you're one of these incel guys who are sitting there talking about how they know so much about female nature, if you know so much about female nature, then take advantage. You know what I mean? If you know so much about female nature, then get the results that come from having that knowledge. And if
I made a joke about that. Like, if you know so much, why are they all single?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing: is that, like, I think some of these guys, they do know, but the difference is that there is like a knowledge, and then there is like how to apply that knowledge, and there is like a gap. And I think that's where we come in, because there's a lot of these guys who are like, they see how women are, but how to actually become the kind of man who gets those results. That's where we come in. It's like it's one thing to look at a woman and say, okay, like she'll treat this guy this way, she'll treat this guy another way. If you want to know how to become the guy who she treats well, as opposed to the guy who she's dismissive of and treats like trash, okay, we're going to be the guys who are going to actually turn you into that.
Well, the linchpin question is, where do you think they're getting that knowledge from? And this is problematic. If it's not popping off the top of your head, they're getting this knowledge from other people who don't have that knowledge. So it's regurgitation of regurgitation of regurgitation. So you've got a lot of guys who don't have any lived boots on the ground experience, who are taking information that they picked up on YouTube, or picked up on X, or picked up on TikTok, and then compiling it and then just spitting it back out again and saying, look, this is what I heard because this guy over here has a lot of numbers. He's got a lot of followers, a lot of likes. So he must know what he's talking about. And he just starts repeating what that guy said, who also doesn't have boots on the ground experience. And then this comes around and it starts becoming a believed perception, but that's not really what's actually going on. And then the problem with these guys, when they say, okay, I want to be that guy, they're coming at it from a perspective of, I hear what these women are wanting, so I'm going to become, or I want to become what these women are wanting. But in that paradigm, they are still following women, which is a problem, right? So if they hear, oh, I want dominant men, okay, I'm going to get myself a hat and a shirt and whatever, and I will appear and act and for all intents and purposes, be perceived as dominant, but I'm still following the whims of a woman because that's what I want. Versus I'm not listening to anything, what any of them are saying, because they're all NPCs. Every woman is an NPC except the one that was campaigning to get on your program. And that is it. Right. And so it's like you could try to win by putting on a costume, but you're still following.
It's very important what you just say here, right? Because, like, I'm on X, right? And one of the PUA guys, because there's a community of PUAs, said, your profile is very different to the others. And I said, well, I'm technically not one. I used to be one. And it's like, and I said, yeah, because you would be more towards a red pill / misogynist type guy, right? But you don't do it because out of lack. You do it regardless of your outcome, in the sense of you get the positive outcome, but that still doesn't change the view you have of them. Whereas a lot of PUAs, what they tend to be is, as you were just saying, they're following the female agenda, or little milestones and everything. So at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, the females, they just basically drop off. Yeah, it's great, you want to basically bang and shit, but can you actually keep them? No, you can't, because basically you don't know how to basically assert your frame. Your frame was great when you passed shit tests, but you have actually a frame outside of it. And that's where a lot of guys just basically think they got the win by just a fuck, but they actually haven't.
Mhm.
And actually that leads me to the next question, because and that ties us up with what Chris said, was the problem that you have is like you have a lot of guys, and as well what you said, right, that just basically regurgitates things from other from other content creators who have
Mhm.
a high following, who basically have a high social proof, and that may not necessarily have that on the ground experience. And then
Mhm.
literally that perception that the perception they get from the reality, that the person emanating that reality becomes a reality in itself, because people, first of all, don't want to basically put themselves out there, and then they just say whatever, a bit like the woke ideology, they say whatever, the main mantra is. So the question I have here is, the people, and for you as well, Chris, right, the people that goes to you, Justin, and the people that
Mhm.
goes to you, Chris, what type of people are they? Are they like weirdos? Are they people that want to basically address issues that in their relationship? What is kind of like the trigger, or and who is generally coming to you for help, woman or man? Like, I know it's a bit convoluted in terms of question, but I think you can. I'll leave the
I
mic to you,
think I
man.
know what you're saying. The types of clients that I get are just they run the gamut. I get single guys who are looking to change their station, change the way they. It's funny. They have this goal in mind that they think they want, and then I give them the medicine that they need. So, and that's just the way it works. That's how our marketing works, right? You sell them, you sell like men. You either need to sell them ass or sell them ways to get more money. That's basically it, right? And so that's kind of how I was going about it. I said, all right, I'll help you get some more ass. And they come in like, okay, can you teach me? And then I say, well, let me hear about your relationship with your mother. Let me hear your relationship about your father and your first sexual experience. Have you ever been abused as a child? Right? Because all of these things come into play of how we relate with ourselves, and then in turn that plays a huge role in how we interact with other human beings, especially those that we want to be romantically involved with. So that really comes into all of my clients, whether they're single, whether they're in relationship, or they're married, or what have you. And typically the goals are all the same once we get past their superficial desires, and that's really to have a very centered, very grounded, very illuminated sense of self. And that changes everything, because now you're no longer following anything but your own set of codes, principles, and rules. And so it doesn't matter what that guy over there says, what the YouTube says, what the TikTok says, what the woman says, what your mother says, what the politicians say, what your preacher says. All of it becomes inessential when it's compared to your own inner pillar. And then once that's established, you can basically do whatever you want once you add an element of creativity. And so they come in from different places with different surface level desires, but it all comes down to the same shit.
Yeah, when you don't have a path and a goal that you're moving towards, everything just becomes a tool with which to procrastinate with or to beat yourself up with. You can
Mm.
you can be like when you don't have some kind of overarching goal and some kind of plan for yourself, then you'll end up just browsing. You'll be there's a reason why, even though we're living in a digital renaissance where everyone has access to all of the world's information at their fingertips. You would think, wouldn't you, that the vast majority of people with access to the internet would be accomplishing all sorts of things, right? They would be, every single person would be like an artist or a scientist or a business person. And many people thought this. But in actual fact, the vast majority are not. In fact, the percentage of people achieving things in society is pretty much the same as it ever was. And the reason is because the vast majority of people will be consuming an enormous amount of information, but they will either be using it in a sort of delusional way, where they consume information and then they sort of play out fantasies in their head, and then they log off at the end of the day, and then that's the only action that they take. Or
Mm-hmm.
they will. I mean, when you notice, when you see a lot of these sort of a lot of these black pill people, a lot of these look maxer people, and a lot of that, there are entire belief systems which are feeding into young men's desire to create a justification as to why they can't get laid, as to why they can't, like, oh, Another man might, have a woman fall in love with him and want to have his children. Another man might want to, a woman might want to suck his dick and call him master, but that's just not me. No, that it couldn't possibly be me. I'm going to watch 5 hours of Luxmax content and tell you why my negative canthal tilt is the reason why a girl won't call me sir. Like, you got entire fucking ecosystems online teaching
Mm-hmm.
guys why it's okay to just sit there and be yourself and not try and improve and not try and why it's okay to not have a plan. It's not okay to not have a plan. It's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay to beat yourself up. It's not okay to not want the best for yourself. It's not okay to not want to fucking conquer everything in sight. It's not okay. If there is women that you're imagining in your head and they're not in your bed, that's not okay. If there's
Mm-hmm.
money, if there's things that you want to buy that you're imagining in your head, and that car isn't sat in your driveway, right? That's not okay. It's not okay. And if you log onto the fucking internet, right, and there's people there who are like, oh yes, well, according to my carefully thought out ideology, it's okay actually that you don't have that car. It's okay that you don't have that woman, and the reason is blah, 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 blah. You need to cut that shit out. Like all you guys need to you need to cut that shit out because it's don't do that to yourself.
Yeah. If I basically take two things from what you said, Justin, and what you said, Chris, is the first thing is it all revolves around the self, right? And that's like we barely talked, right, Justin, before this pod, right? And they didn't
Right.
even say that to me. And I think it was yesterday, someone in my DM is like, don't ask me, what is the most important thing when it comes to game, dating, and everything? And I said, your reality/frame. Because everything derives from there. Your communication, your social skills, your confidence, your leadership, and all of this becomes, because people confuse the reality and objective reality and subjective reality. But in today's world, we're working in a subjective reality, and it's always about, and we're talking about power dynamics within couples. Before you basically get into that woman basically submitting to you, you need to basically have her submit to your reality. And from the moment that she submits to
Mm-hmm.
your reality is where everything starts, right? And the second thing, which is what Chris said, is that from the moment that, how do you say, that we create this internet that basically would be this knowledge share on a wider spectrum and everything, that basically people would level up and everything, where it actually ended up being a circle jerk of people finding the reason as to why they're not getting what they want as a justification, and literally wanking on that through the black pill. I don't basically discard all of the black pill. I understand why people go and go there, because obviously social media and dating app has made things very superficial. But at the same time, it is such a self defeated mindset that actually is cutting the wings of you as an individual, of where you actually can go and what you can achieve. And if you think that looks is just going to make everything about you, then I'm sorry to say you're just a bitch, because it's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I
like
can I can I just say something about that? Is
yeah.
that the black pill is based on some harsh truths in the world, right? Like if you are more beautiful, people will, as a man or a woman, especially as a woman, people will treat you better. They will have more empathy for you. They will have more respect for you. That is a truth,
I won't.
right? If you are shorter as a man, people will not necessarily perceive you as being as masculine, and you might have to do a little bit more to convince them that you are. These are real things. I would say though that the black pill is overselling itself. The propaganda of the black pill is that they're just recognizing harsh truths. But I think that there's something a bit more sinister going on there, because I mean, all three of us here, we can recognize a whole bunch of harsh and unfair truths about the world, but we're not selling the black pill. The black pill, as I would define it, and some people would consider this a negative definition, but this is what I advocate against. The black pill is finding a harsh truth and then what you do with it, right? It's like finding a harsh truth and then saying, okay, because the world is unfair, therefore I'm fucked. That's the black pill to me. That's what these guys are doing. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just recognizing harsh truths. It's I don't look like a male model, therefore I'm fucked. I'm not 6'4", therefore I'm fucked. Or you'll have some Indian dude, oh, I'm not white and Aryan, I'm fucked, right? That to me is the black pill, and that's the worst thing. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
these guys are like, well, so you're saying height doesn't matter? You're saying looks don't matter? Of course they matter. What we're saying is that there are so many fucking things that you can do in this world to inspire respect, adulation, to gain submission from women. That are There are so many different weapons that you have at your disposal. You have a whole fucking arsenal of things, and if you learn and practice these things, any one of these disadvantages that you might have, they're going to end up being negligible. You know what I mean? Yeah, if you have nothing else going for you, being short is going to fuck you, right? If you have nothing else going for you, being some scrawny Indian dude with a funny accent is going to fuck you, right? If you have nothing else going for you, but if you have all of the other different tools in your arsenal and the powers that guys like us can give you, then it's not gonna be a thing. If anything, it's just going to be a little quirk. People will know
Mm-hmm.
you as that guy who's short that gets all the girls. People will know you as that sort of Indian dude with the funny accent, but who everyone loves, right? It's almost like once you have enough tools in your game, whatever kind of disadvantages might be dragging you down, once people see that you're not disadvantaged by them, they almost become like an extra point of respect.
I
Yeah.
got you, so Neil.
Yeah.
But and yeah, and
Well, I
actually,
think there's
I'll
layers to it though, because it all comes from a position of self-loathing, right? So if somebody all right, if you take someone who is violent and they're intent on causing harm, and you say no guns allowed, they're going to find a knife. They're going to find a bomb. They're going to find a piece of rope.
Yeah.
They're going to find a razor blade. If someone is intent on a certain thing, they're going to seek out the thing that allows them to maintain that certain set of beliefs, actions, and values. So they are already coming from a position of self-loathing. So they get drawn into the black pill. They resonate with the black pill so very easily. And it justifies everything that they already believe about themselves, right?
Mm.
And so it's easy in that sense. And then so they have like this closed loop system going on. All right, they got the verification of their already pre-existing beliefs, and it's a really sad state. And then on top of those layers is that it still is from a position of comparing oneself to other people. They compare themselves to these archetypes. Like Chad does not exist. It's an archetype that people have built into their minds. This person does not exist. It's a like a superhero character straight out of a comic book, right? And they take this person as this like believable archetype in which to compare themselves to, and this is destructive. This is like putting a stick of dynamite up your ass, and they do it daily. They will do it as daily, compare themselves to this archetype that isn't even real. And then they're always constantly thinking about women. So every single action that they're taking, even if it's against this sort of thing, like the rebelling, such as say MGTOW, that is still because they're obsessed with women. They worship women. Red pill, all the negativity and all that stuff that comes from that, right? We figured out female nature. It's because you're obsessed with women. Like all of it, the whole shit comes from the obsession over females. And it's like really that all has to be flipped, and you have to become obsessive about yourself, and you have to have a high level of self-respect. You have to have a high level of self-love. You have to have a high level of self-awareness. You have to be able to look at your own ego and take it apart when necessary, so you can actually grow and become grounded instead of floating on these like imaginary shoes that keep you off the grounds. Like that's not really being a man. Think because you've thought of yourself in a certain way and you want to characterize yourself in a certain way, like that's all fake bullshit. Like that's not really carrying yourself as a man. It's just like the whole thing is just messed up because all you got to do is just really focus on yourself. That's it. but from a very realistic and a holistic perspective, and not blowing smoke up your own ass for the sake of it, just so you can feel better. And how this relates to our topic, if you will never be able to lead, you will never be able to influence, you'll never be able to create a dynamic where there's clear cut shifts between domination and submission, with if you've riddled with self-doubt, right? You cannot lead and doubt at the same time. You can't have rules and have self-loathing. They don't work. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It's like putting
who
a
am I?
drop of
Yeah.
poison in a bucket of water. What's up,
Yeah,
Chris?
who am I to impose rules? Like if you hate yourself, you're not going to be able to demand something from a girl, and even if you are, it's going to come across in a very sort of awkward way. She's going to know, like, that
Mm-hmm.
you don't really feel worthy of that. You don't feel worthy of, like, I see it all the time. Like, guys don't feel worthy of a woman's submission. I mean, no wonder there's so few dominant men around. Like, no wonder, like, the few
That's
guys who
wild.
know what they're doing have multiple, multiple women usually, because, like, there's so few guys who think that they're worthy of a girl sort of kneeling in front of them or calling them sir, or even, like, you see this plague of guys sort of like, oh, it's the second time my girlfriend cheated on me, should I forgive her, like, like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you explain to a guy like that
And I don't even think of it as like me being worthy to, a woman's submission. It's me being worthy to my highest ideals, which is my codes, principles, and rules, and then her being worthy of me. Like it's
mm,
all based around me, right? Like I've got a colleague
yeah,
who says it begins and ends with the man. How she is a direct relationship of who you are, and who you are is based on what keeps you moving in this world, and you have to know what it is. I've got a PDF that's strictly based on laying out my codes, principles, and rules, and I've got lists of these things, right? Like I know what my program is, I know what I stand for, and so I have to measure up against that. Some guys, they take, like in the I'm Chris, I'm sure you're familiar with like the Christian domestic discipline area of life, and so they use God, right, and their religion. So it's like God and religion first, man follows that, woman follows the man. And
mm,
so I do the same thing, but more from a non-spiritual, non-religious perspective. And so I'm not ever concerned, am I worthy of her submission? It's, am I worthy of my highest ideals? Am I staying true to them on a daily basis? And then if I am, then I can use that as a marker and look at her, and then I have a strong basis to observe and monitor and correct, if necessary, her behavior. And then that's how the leadership goes. It's a trickle down effect.
yeah. I mean, she is like, this is something I talk about a lot in my book, which is mainly sort of focused on the female sexual fantasy of submission, is the idea that she is lucky to give you pleasure. It's a privilege for her to give you pleasure, and it should be a source of pleasure for her. Guys, especially in the bedroom, like, they regard, like, I always think of, like, the meme with the sort of the husband, and it's like, I've done this many chores, and then at the end of the week he gets a reward as sex. It's
Right.
like, no, it's like, you
It's the
know
other way around.
yeah,
Her
it's the other
pleasure
way
is the
around. Like,
reward.
yeah, like, when she gives you a blowjob, right?
Hmm.
She's been a good girl. That's a reward for her being a good girl, and you should tell
Yeah,
her. You should be like,
absolutely.
you should say to her, put a couple of fingers under her chin, point her face up at you and go, ask her, get her to ask for permission to suck your cock, like,
Hmm.
frame it like you want to create that frame. She's looking up at you, right? And she's asking for permission to give you pleasure. She's asking permission to be submissive to you,
Of
because
course.
at the end of the day, her submitting, I mean, she is gaining, she's getting a lot out of that. She's getting a lot out of the idea that you're this figure who is above her, and she is fortunate to be
Hmm.
doing things that make you feel good and helping you be the best version of the man that you can be, right? So that phrase, like, guys have it all wrong. They have it all wrong. Like,
Hmm.
these black pill guys, these incel guys. It's almost like, in a weird kind of way, in a weird kind of roundabout way, They're actually feminists because
Mhm.
the woman is like, to them, is this amazing thing from on high, which is the dispenser of all happiness. The
Right.
woman is the dispenser of all happiness, and that they
And that
cannot.
makes sense, almost like a deity level, because with
Yeah,
deities, there's this reverence, but also fear at the same time, right?
yeah,
I hear that of, like, religious believers, they love and fear God at the same time, and I see what you're saying. It almost has that same sort of tone.
yeah, and in reality, like you can. I guess I suppose the whole definition of domination is where you can flip that script and you can switch that frame so that she is the one
Hmm.
who is looking up at you. She is the one who wants to worship you, and she looks at you as the provider of importance, of the sacred. I mean, like, it depends on what your definition of sacred is, right? I mean, I don't come at things from the religious angle, but like it's you
Well,
are
I look at it as you're the pathway that can bring her to a deeper level of her own experience of herself.
yes,
Because think
yeah,
about it. So, like, women's with, like, say, like an average Joe, okay? If he doesn't know any of these things, he can't lead her emotions, he can't lead her imagination, he can't lead her body. He's just there, right? Your average guy who's married, he can only take her to a certain extent, okay? Versus someone who can lead her past those levels into something deeper within herself. She's now experiencing new and deeper levels of her own existence. And you're now the conduit for that. You're this pathway that facilitates this experience. And this is one of the joys of domination, when you can see her able to open up to herself and she's now growing from this place, a place that maybe she only fantasized about or isn't even aware of. I feel like I'm turning into someone else. Or you have spent some time and you go, baby, take a look at how you were texting 6 months ago. Look at how we were talking 6 months ago, and look how you were behaving. Now look at you now. How do you feel? And have them reflect on these things and they're like, holy shit, like, I'm different. I'm lighter. I'm more free. I feel more feminine. Like, all I think about is, like, when you come home and I can worship your dick. Like, these things, and amongst other things, I'm just saying that for the podcast, but it's a whole other thing when you can take a woman there. And incumbent upon that is a man being able to stave off his hunger for his own pleasure. So I tell my guys is that they need to put their own pleasure on the back burner, because the conductor of a symphony, okay, he doesn't have the luxury of enjoying the music. Okay,
hmm.
he hears it, he appreciates it, but he must maintain a mindset of watching everybody and making sure everyone's doing what they need to do in order to create a beautiful performance for those that are in that luxury position of just immersing themselves in the music. Okay, he doesn't have that luxury. He can hear it, he can enjoy it, but he's not immersed. Okay, this is the role that a man must have in order to properly lead, influence, and dominate. Like, but there are times, and Chris, I know you're familiar with this, where you can allow yourself within, like, say, certain scenes where everything's got its, like, T's crossed and I's dotted, and you can, okay, now I can lose myself in this, and I'm with a trusted person, we have everything figured out, there's safe words involved, I know them, they know me, and it's a very much more of a controlled environment. Now I can lose myself. I don't have to think as much. I could just feel and move. But aside from those, for the most part, I think it's best that men learn how to be slightly detached from everything so that they are able to observe, lead, and influence with a clear mind.
I,
It's
I would I would agree, and I would also I won't necessarily agree with your definition of like not putting your own pleasure first, but I feel like there's something to add to that in the sense that a lot of guys view the pleasure that you can gain from sex and sexual dynamics as in just the feeling on your dick, right, or the feeling of coming,
Mhm.
right, and I
That's what I mean.
suppose, yeah, and I suppose, like, as a dominant or a master, you need to look, your dick's going to end up feeling good if you do things right. Right, she's going to be doing a lot of
Exactly.
things, right,
Exactly.
but
Yes.
the thing that you need to focus on is deriving pleasure from the act of dominating her in itself more than
Yes.
anything else, rather than
Yes.
just focus. Like you need to be in love with the game of training her. You need to be in love with the game of punishing her when she's done wrong, of rewarding her when she's
Yes, you're
done
correct.
bad.
I did speak too generally. I should have said sexual pleasure, not all
Yeah, no,
pleasure,
no,
but sexual pleasure.
you
Yes.
were right. You were right. It's just like there would probably be some like beginners who might not necessarily know what you meant by that. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Thank you for clearing that up. Yep.
Yeah, and it's so here's the problem where it is, and I think I spoke to this about French maybe French. I'm not sure, but I spoke to this with someone where I said that most guys don't actually get that much from sex. This is like, and
That was me.
it was you. It was you. Okay. This is like a lot of sexless marriages. People say that it's all the woman, that it's all the
No?
woman,
Mhm.
but in actual fact, most guys, they get used to having the occasional blowjob, or they get used to coming inside their woman, and that's all they really want to do, and that's it.
No?
Mhm.
And they've done that, they get used to that, and then that's it. It's like, okay, every now and then my dick can tingle and I can come, right? And then that's it. But the thing is that most women are actually, here's the thing, most women are actually much kinkier than most men, because women need that fantasy. Women need that fantasy to reach the highest extents of their sexual experience, right? So a lot of guys, most of the guys that you see are out there are guys who their whole extent of their fantasy is climbing on top of a woman, pumping away with their dick about 10 times, coming inside her, rolling over, and then falling asleep, right? So like it's so if you really want to have a full sexual experience, and you want to have a woman who is sexually committed to you and everything that comes with that, and if you want to have maybe several, right, you need to be the kind of man who has, and I call it sexual power, right? You need to have sexual power. Like you need to have more. I mean, you need to be a fucking degenerate in some ways, right? You need to
No,
be
Chris.
you need to be kinky. You need to be a degenerate. You need to have fantasies, right? You need to have more.
I would say a mindful degenerate.
Wow, I guess.
By the way, I think there's things that I think would be interesting to sum up. So going back onto the religious side of things, where you were mentioning before, people had different type of structure, self-belief, etc., etc. Right now, the people don't have it anymore. So if you don't have yourself as a guy to follow your own path, your own journey, your own cause and rules, you've got nothing, and that's why so many guys are lost. And that's what you were saying, Justin. It's it's really funny, because even though, as I said earlier, like we came to the same conclusion with our respective separate experience, where I say to the guys when I'm dealing with, right, focus on three major things: who you are, what you want, and what you're going to tolerate. That's all you need to know, and then you basically follow that path. And then on the other thing, which is about sexual power, sexual dominance, in an era where basically you think about like your average girl, like a lot of guys would be saying, "King, like she's ran through, etc., etc." Right? She cannot bond. She can do shit. It's like, if you can power her sexually speaking, and if she can feel something she's never felt with any other guys outside, through your sexual prowess, or your mental domination, or the toxicity under which she feels a roller coaster of emotion, trust me, she'll forget most of them guys that basically she just basically bang and smash and dash. You'll notice your role and your position, because before, people basically were focusing on virgins because they didn't have as many reference points. Now, because you've got many more reference points, how can you single out yourself from it, right? And one of them is actually through the route that you're offering. And I'll tell you something. Having been on the field, what I've seen is women have shocked me by the shit that turned them on. And I was like, I was not necessarily the most kinky or the craziest shit, whatever. But like the shit that I heard, or that they wanted either me to do, or that they talk to me, because sometimes I just chat, on a non man to woman basis, just with some. I'd be like, shit, and most guys don't know that. And actually, and now that's actually the question I want to ask you. Like, what would you say are the main challenges that you address within what you're offering yourself as service and in your profession? Because we discussed that it's pretty much, it can be your Joe blogs that just want to get a bit more information about it, trying to learn a bit
Yeah.
more. But generally, what recurring issues are coming because people don't
Hmm.
come without paying to your service? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, you said the three things that you need. What was it? Wanting, knowing what you want, knowing about yourself, and knowing what you're willing to put up with. Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So the wanting, I think that, of course, the self, but we touched on that. The other main thing that I come across with my guys is that men typically don't know what they want. And it's a lot to do with social conditioning, how they were raised, thinking that they can't want beyond the basic stuff, and therefore their imagination gets stunted, and their desire for things beyond just the simple shit like, oh, I just want regular sex and food and a job and a roof and a car, right? And it's like, there's a whole world, there's a whole universe of desires that you can have, but they can't tap into it. And I have a little exercise that I do for all of my guys when they're early on starting with me, and I tell them to write a list of 101 wants, and anything can be on it. Anything from pragmatic stuff to goals about like your health or career. There can be fantastical things. Like if you want a fucking dragon because you love dragons, then you can put that on your list. Okay. It doesn't matter what it is. And without fail, guys will reach a certain point somewhere around like the upper 20s, early 30s in that list, and they stop. They can't think past 28 to 35 in terms of the things that they want, which is crazy because if I give this a task to my 12-year-old son, he'll have it done in 5 minutes. He will rattle that shit out, and he'll have even more to put on that list if I allow him to have that. And the
Mhm.
thing is that he is not hindered by anything because he's very much in touch with his ego and his desires and all kinds of shit like that. Whereas guys, they have these stops put in place. They have these doubts about themselves. They have this social conditioning about themselves, and they can't want. So if you don't know who you are, then you're definitely not going to know what you want, or you're going to be afraid to go after what you want, or even just to admit to yourself that you have something that you want. And then you're certainly not going to be able to create any sort of boundaries or rules or anything like that in place. So you're basically screwed if you don't know who you are and you don't know anything about your desires, especially if the only thing that on that list is getting pussy, because now that thing is leading you. You're being guided by this. And that's all you think about, which is usually what, these guys are all about. So I'd say wanting is one of the biggest problems that guys have.
And actually, I just want to bounce off that what you're just saying. Advertisers originally basically asked people what they wanted before they
Mm-hmm.
make their campaigns. It was shit campaigns. What they realized is that you had to shape people's mind in creating a setup where you create what they already wanted, but that they didn't know they wanted. The
Mm-hmm.
mind is very malleable when you don't know who you are. Again, right, as you're saying,
Of course. Yep. You're
and it's
very
and
easily influenced.
exactly, and it goes back to what also we're saying about the red pill and the black pill and whatnot. And if you function on somebody else's ideology, then you're just a parrot. You're not you. You just It's
Mm-hmm.
like you see a lot of accounts here on X, right, where you're like, oh, so you're just technically reformatting what someone else says and just
Mm-hmm.
using their tropes and everything. I'm not saying that there's not good things to pick up from the black pill from the red pill, but for me, having gone through all of those different type of pills per se and the PUA shit, what I've noticed is when I was very influenced on the red pill and the black pill, my results on the field were shit. They were 80% less. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when I thought I was on the black pill, I was like, yeah, it's all looks, right? So I let myself being the dickhead or the cunt that I was, but not under the right format, in the sense of like not the right dickhead, just having shit personality. Guess what? I ain't got shit, and I'm 6'2", and I'm not okay. I've got negative cantal tilt. Okay, but I was not getting it, and when I was in the red pill, I was being so uber sensitive as to where the girl was coming from when she was saying something to me, rather than actually focusing on who I was and how to reframe things. And I
Mm-hmm.
was being put off by a lot of the shit and just being just an oversensitive bitch. So
Yeah.
at the end, and I was like, whereas with the PUA, I was like, I was doing an act. I was getting the results, right? But it was all fugazi. And then once you basically pick up all the lessons from each of those things, you build up your own thing that you're like, okay, well, I'll pick up that because this is good. I'll pick up this. But then the main thing is create your own thought process, your own view on things, and actually feel comfortable with it because you're like, all right, I've first been in the field. This works. This doesn't work. This may work, but it actually has negative feedback loop on me. So move along. But for that, you have to expose yourself, right? And most people are too comfortable watching shit and not do shit.
Yeah, it's something that's important as well. We were talking about guys not necessarily knowing what they want. I feel like one of the paths to knowing what you want is reference experiences. It's actually acquiring in real life experiences, and that's what really, and also like turning yourself into the kind of person who can have those experiences whenever he wants. That I think, because you can have an experience by chance, and it's different from actually sort of having a plan to go and achieve that, and then achieving it. Something I do with the guys that come to me is that I ask them in detail the kind of, I compile like a list of the kind of things that they have done in the realm that they're looking to achieve in. Right. So, I mean, guys, most of the time, but like most of the time, the guys come to me, they're looking for achievements in the sexual realm. Right. So I say, how many women have you slept with? Right. Like how many girlfriends have you have? How long have the relationships been? Have they lived with you? Right. Like, have they been your submissives? Have they called you sir? Have they called you master? Like in what is the level of experience that you have? And I feel that like guys who don't have much in terms of reference experiences, I feel like it's almost impossible for them to really truly know what their highest version of their self will want, right? They first have to get out there and be in like a kind of exploratory phase. Like,
Yep.
this is why like so many of us guys, especially like dominance coaches, we like to criticize the PUA guys a lot, right? But we were all one day, like a long time ago, we were all in that phase where we were like, okay, I've just got to fuck as many girls as possible. Like, we were all in that phase where it's just like, damn, I want to go out there and bang a bunch of bitches because like we needed to actually have that experience. So I feel like when you're asking like what's the advice like that we would give the guys that come to us, it depends on the person and what stage they're at, right? If they if they haven't had those experiences that make them understand themselves and make them aware of themselves, then they need to acquire them, and they need to have the tools to acquire them. And so it's a case of where that person is in life and what to equip them with. Like, do we equip them with an arsenal so that they can go into combat, or are they already in combat and we can just give them like a grand strategy to try and win the war? It's wherever they are. Are they in boot camp or are they in the fucking trenches? Like where are they in life? That I think as a coach, that's the key. Because you can give a whole bunch of advanced advice and deep philosophical advice to a guy, and it'll go over his head if he hasn't been in those places, where if he hasn't had those experience which allow him to be the kind of guy who can understand those.
Yeah, of course. And I often let my guys slip and fall because there's no sense in always winning, right? Like if I so I get like a lot of messages, right? So that my guys they'll be in texting, back and forth with girls from like either dating apps or sharing phone numbers, whatever. And sometimes they'll say, what do I say? And I'll just have them say like whatever they want to say. It's like just answer it however you want to, right?
Yeah.
And allow them to fall on their face, or allow them to like make a half step, or sometimes they answer things properly and things move along. But either way, they're learning. It doesn't help them anyway if I tell them exactly what to say, because then they'll be looking for the next thing for me to tell them what to say. And then, oh, I'm out on a date. What do I do? And then I have to be that guy in their ear and say, okay, we'll do this, say this, whatever. And then when they're in the bedroom and they're like, okay, Justin, what do I say? What do I do? So
Yeah.
and so it doesn't really work. I think there was a Black Mirror episode of that where there was a guy and he was in the ear of some dude and he had like a camera on his chest or a hidden camera, and he was basically like using his client like a puppet so he could have this experience with a woman or something like that. But I don't want to be that guy, right? So I allow my guys to fall down and skin their knees so they can really experience. And then I point out how they skin their knees, and then I give them the tools in which to understand how communication goes, at least in terms of like messaging and things like that. Of like how, allow them the tools, and then say, okay, see where you screwed up here. With this tool, I will give you the ability to now see the structure of communication. And then once they can see the structure, then they will know how to advance themselves through that, instead of just me giving them lines that they just memorize and spit out. That's not effective. I'm sorry, that's not effective for them. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, because they have to know where they're at, and be all right with screwing up. Because that's one of the truths that I tell guys, is I say, right now, when you're starting with me, whether you're single, you're in a relationship, you're dating, you're married, I don't care. You have to become 100% okay with losing that woman, no matter what.
Yes.
Because the shifts that you have, you're going to do things that are going to screw up. You're going to do things that make you look bad. You're going to do things that are embarrassing. You're going to do things that challenge you. And sometimes a woman's going to get upset. Sometimes she's going to get confused. Sometimes she's going to get really pissed off or offended or hurt. And it's not because you're trying to do these things. It's because you're trying to find yourself. And in that, you're going to fumble, right? You're not always going to make people happy in trying to find yourself. And so you have to be all right with losing the woman. And this carries through. And once they become accustomed to this, to like, oh, okay, along with the other training, I don't need her to feel good about me. And I never did. It's like Dumbo's feather, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't need the feather to fly. I could always fly. I just thought that I was this cripple that needed her to feel good about myself. And so that through the just repetition, they're like, oh man, I get it. And now once a man can let go of a woman is actually when he can truly appreciate her, because it's not coming from a place of need. It's not coming from a place of attachment. There's no mommy issues. The umbilical cord's been cut. Like, all that bullshit is gone. So now you can truly appreciate the entirety of a woman, her darkness and her light. And you just hold and she can come, she can go, whatever, and she'll feel this and go, he's not trying to control me. Now, will you please control me? I can, like, and then you just leave it as an invitation. Can you please give me guidance? Can you please give me some structure in which to lose myself into? And it's a whole other experience, but it starts with those attachments and letting go, and being present without needing to do anything at all. It's weird. It's a weird thing, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it's the
Oh,
coaches.
I exactly know.
Hang on, can I just address that just before I
No,
forget
go
for a second?
go.
It's the coach's dilemma of guys coming to you, and I mean, you will have experienced this, where guys want you to fix a problem in their life without first fixing them. Right? They'll say like, oh, I'm in a relationship with a woman. I've been in a relationship with her for 2 years. Like, how do I make her submissive to me? Right? Or how do I introduce, like, I want to have a harem. Like, how do I introduce another woman into the relationship? And you're just like, look, I'm not there to fix your relationship. I'm there to fix you, right? And then, like, if I can fix you, right? If I can make you more dominant, right? Then you will have the tools to be able to look at that relationship and go, okay, is this salvageable, right? Because here's the thing: is that most of the guys who come to like a dominance coach, and they'll say like, oh, I want my woman to start having threesomes, right? I want to bring other women into the bedroom, right? or I want my woman to submit to me, right? If you've been in a relationship with a woman for like 3 years and you've never even spanked her ass, and then all of a sudden you're expecting her to sort of get on her knees, call you master, and like bring other girls to come and suck your dick. That, you know what I mean? Like it's some of these guys, they come,
Yeah,
yeah, they come to a coach, and I feel like you just have to say to some of these guys, look, I'll do the best I can with you, and maybe you can salvage something out of that relationship. You once I've strengthened you, once I've given you the tools, maybe you can get something more out of that relationship, and maybe you'll be happy with that. But there may come a, like, if what you want is really important to you, then you may have to just accept the fact that you just have to move on from that girl. That you just have
Yeah.
to, like, she might be something that's
Chris,
dragging you down. Like,
Chris,
yeah, what's up, man?
Chris. Yeah, no, just so that you know, Justin has to go in 5 minutes, so
Mhm.
I'll
Oh,
leave the mic to Justin.
yeah, sure.
Sure.
Just please tell us a little bit more about your business, and also if you have like a story, like a hero to zero that you managed to completely shift, be great to share as well.
Well, sure. Yeah. Well, I want to address what Chris was just saying. And before
Hmm.
even getting to spanking her, right? Like you said, like, oh, you want all these things. Like, have you even spanked her yet? I would say, like, have you even addressed any of her behavior? Like, have you ever given her an instruction? Like, instead of baby or like, honey, will you please get me a cup of coffee? Have you ever said, baby, get me a cup of coffee, please? Right? And turn it into a statement rather than a question, okay, or a request, right? I always use matters, so I'm never saying like get me a cup of coffee. I always say get me a cup of coffee, please, right? Because I think matters are important. But have you ever addressed behavior that you enjoy, right? Where she does something great, like maybe she I don't know, just random like pressed all of your shirts, and you're like, have you ever just noticed that and pulled her aside, sat her on your lap, and said, I love that you did that for me. That is so fucking sexy, right? Give her a little kiss on the cheek or on the forehead, and then let her go on her way, right? Maybe a little pat on the butt or something along those lines. Have you even addressed like anything of behavior where you're saying to her, in other words, I'm paying attention to you. I'm watching everything you do. If you haven't gotten there yet, you're not going to get to the spanking. You're not going to get to the choking. You're not going to get to the hair pulling or the bondage
Yeah,
or the butt plugs or the whips or the electrolysis or threesomes or harems or cages or anything, right? You're not going to
yeah,
get to any of that stuff if you cannot have the awareness and precision to recognize behavior, right? Have you had the ability to see something that she said or did that you did not like? And you say, honey, come over here. I need you to sit down. We need to have a talk, right? And be very frank and be very direct. And not only recognize it, but then say to her what you expect to see or hear. You said this, that's not going to fly here. What I expect for you to say is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or what I expect you to do is XYZ. Do you understand? And with completing the statement with, do you understand? If you can't get there, shoot, you're light years away from any of the fun stuff, right? You get
yeah,
the foundations right. The fun stuff is easy. Now the challenge is your own imagination. You're like, well, what do I pick from this wonderlands that's in my head? Right? What makes sense for what I want to do? Where
yeah.
do I want to lead this? And actually, I've got a flow chart that I designed for creating scenes, right? So for those who aren't aware, a scene is where you concoct a certain sexual or play event that has like a theme, it has a direction, it has a reason, it has a purpose. And there's many different reasons for them, right? There can be play, they could be for teaching, they could be for discipline, they can be just for exploration. There's a lot of different things. You could do costumes, you can do role play, whatever. There's a lot of variation. But I made a like a flow chart of how to navigate it so that there's a way to kind of string things together to give you like a basic framework. But you're not even going to be able to get there until a guy is okay with saying, this is what I want to see, this is what I expect, this is what I like, or this is what I love about what you've done, and be able to to know yourself and trust yourself enough to give positive and negative reinforcement. So that, amongst a lot of other things, is what I focus on at the Dominance Academy. I will wrap this and just say that I appreciate you guys having me. I look forward to dropping by again if you'll have me, because I also want to speak with Double O. So that would be good. But I had a good time, Chris. It was fantastic meeting you too. If possible, I want to connect with you, because you said you wrote a book, so I'd love to check that out. I'm always interested in seeing what other people have to say about the lifestyle. And if anybody has any questions, they can go to my website. It's dominanceacademy.com, and I can be found on Instagram at thedominance.academy. And that's probably the easiest way for people to get in touch with me. And I work with men, I work with single guys, I work with married guys, I work with couples. A number of women are already coming to me saying, hey, this is what I want, sort of French, based on what you were saying about the fantasy and all that stuff. They're like, I've been married for 20 years. I've been having this itch to be on my knees or to explore these sexual things that are in my head. Please help me. How do I talk to my husband so he doesn't feel insecure or anything like that? And so I'm working with women as well. It's a bit more challenging because of that, but needless to say, it's all enjoyable. And if anybody has any questions, they can contact me. And my first consultations on the phone, they're always free. There's no charge for the initial consultation. And people can contact me and we can chat for about an hour about anything that anybody wants to.
Yeah, great.
Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, great. And don't worry, I'll make sure to add all your links in the description so people can get in touch with you. I think it was very, very insightful. Thank you also for doing a little bit of overtime. You told me like you're about to go, great to have you both. Chris, you can stay a little bit. Just want to close on a couple of things. But Justin, it'd be a pleasure to have you around again, and this time with 007 when he rises from the ash, such as a phoenix.
Yes.
But in the meantime, I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Absolutely.
Right. Well. I'll see you. I'll see you later.
See you later. All right, guys. Have a good one. Take it easy.
I think I'll...
I forgot what we were saying just before because I didn't want to cut you. No. I think I was cutting you, but there was something that Justin said just before. When you cutting me. Well, not cutting me. I mean, we're kind of a bit like at a crossroads. So I let you speak. Unless you spoke. What was he talking about just before? When you went on.
We were talking about.
Never mind.
Yeah, we were talking about coaching. We were talking about couples.
Yeah, no, the coaching. Yeah, because you have to basically teach them to be, instead of sorting out the issue they have in the relationship they have, it starts from them.
Yeah.
And every time when you say this to them, they don't want to hear it. And it's like you can tell. The problem is, and that's something I've noticed myself, right, is that you can tell them exactly what they need to do, but because the core mode, the processor inside of inside of themselves is not wired the right way, they can't do it, or when they do it, it's not congruent. And it all starts with the self. There we go. That's what I want to basically say. What people don't realize is it's about woman will actually come closer and be warmer to you once they feel that you don't have an agenda with them. They will want to control you when it's pretty mental. Like it's the same thing. I wrote a post on when you love someone, you must love her and let her go by loving her. And what I mean by that was you'll realize and you'll find yourself in a situation where when you don't care, it is when they want you to care. That's why they come back when you feel it's too late. When basically just like you had enough and everything, and that's the moment that they feel it's too late. That's when they come back. That's when they're reaching out to you. But the problem is that guys, by trying to overpower or by either through insecurity or either through other type of reason that are within their head, it stops them from actually getting the outcome they want. And what is so important for guys to understand and to know is understanding attraction is you always got to be on the edge. You're always going to be on the edge of you're potentially leaving because that's what it's going to pull right towards you.
Yes.
And that's where toxicity comes into play. What is toxic? Let me just finish this, I'll let you go.
No, go.
What is toxic? Toxic is about the highs and the lows, right? But it's like a rubber band. And it's like, and it's the more the rubber band gets stretched, the more the emotion gets, it's like a muscle. The more the emotion gets teared, but the muscle grows every time. And the more toxic you are, and the more back and forth with that rubber band between the hot and the cold, the more the muscle grows over time. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a reason why the girls that you break up with, they're the ones that are in your DMs like a few months later, getting jealous when they see you, posting on your Snapchat or posting on your Instagram with another girl. But the girls that broke up with you, they're gone forever. They're gone forever. You're never getting them back. You're never getting them
Yeah.
back. And yeah, the thing about the toxicity is that like you need to, like if you are asserting yourself correctly and if you have a high enough opinion of yourself to really become a master, right? You need like
Mm-hmm.
you could be with a girl, right? Have you ever really got annoyed that her behavior wasn't good enough? Right. And if the answer, if you're with a girl for like a period of time and the answer is like, no, there's never been a time when I've really sort of thought, this bitch isn't pulling her weight. Right. Like, you're not like, there's no way a woman's that perfect. I don't care if she's the sweetest, nicest person ever.
No,
Right. There's like, if you are asserting yourself correctly, there should be like an element of tension. There should be moments when you have to punish her. There should be moments when you have to sit her down. Like Justin was saying, there should be moments where you have to sit her down and tell her, like, what you're doing here. I don't like that. I don't like that. What you did there, I don't like that. And I feel like
and,
you could behave better. And one of the greatest dark truths is that they actually like that. They like that and they respect you more
they do,
and they
they
enjoy
do. They want to be
they enjoy it. They
exactly,
enjoy,
and that's what turned them on.
yeah, like you can go like you can go on like female Twitter, female Instagram, anywhere. Like go and follow some of these female pages right on Instagram where they talk about girl shit. The amount of times where women are like saying things like, oh, when he shouts at me, my brain, sad face, my pussy, happy face. It's like they say stuff like that because like they respond to it.
But
Yeah, like they respond to it like their
yeah,
body
because they never
responds.
get told off, right?
Yeah, like so even your girl might be
Yeah,
sweet, she might be nice, and she might be the kind of she might not be some kind of bitch, and in that situation you might not have had any arguments, but that's not necessarily a great sign. It's maybe a sign that you're being a little bit too passive, and maybe you need to
yeah,
assert yourself more because if a relationship doesn't have to be war, but there will be conflict if you're doing
no,
things right. If you really assert
and
yourself.
conflict creates attraction. That's why it's like it's in the discomfort, and it's about the asserting of your position that she feels reassured that she's with the leader she wants to be in with. And like I made a joke. There's an inside joke with my friend. I think it was someone from Geordie Shore, right? It was like a bitch from Geordie Shore that was just saying, "Oh, I like to be told off," and it's like every time we're laughing but at the same time, the craziest sex is after you basically have a fucking argument with her. But more importantly, if a girl stops arguing with you, she doesn't give a fuck about you anymore. She's like, yeah, whatever, fuck off.
Yeah,
I don't even bother spending my time with you actually arguing my point.
yeah. It's like there's
It's
yeah,
you.
there's positive energy where you're both in agreement with each other, and then there's negative energy where you're both at each other's
Yeah,
throats. But both of those are better than no energy,
yeah.
right? Like one of the guys that I yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
one of the guys that I go out clubbing with sometimes. Now, generally speaking, like I don't go to clubs to pick up women anymore. When I'm going out clubbing, right? I'm out with my mates,
Mhm.
right? I don't need any more women, and if I do, I'll go on like FetLife
Mhm.
or Field to find exactly the kind of women that I want, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's one of my mates. He is one of the most fucking charismatic dudes imaginable, and he has a brilliant strategy where he will approach a girl and he will try and fucking piss her off. He will create some kind, like, he will basically create some kind of conflict where he's like, this is like proper PUA shit now, even though he would laugh at that term if I called him that, right? Like, I've seen this dude, like, if a girl is not showing him the correct amount of attention, he'll clap his hands like 6 inches in front of her face and be like, focus, focus. Literally just like,
This guy is Patrice O'Neill. This guy is Patrice O'Neill.
yeah, essentially, like the old school pickup thing of like the negs. Like, you should see the fucking negs this guy comes out with, like, like walking up to a girl, telling her she has like the ugliest feet he's ever seen, like looking down at her shoes and shit. Like, but like,
Hey, the feed gang here, feed gang.
yeah. Hey, but like, hey, we're all men of culture here, right? We all appreciate a whole range of things, right? But no, but like, I'm getting distracted here, right? The point is that conflict, tension, like guys who have low self-esteem, they think that like the moment an argument starts, they think that a moment a woman calls them an asshole, or the moment a woman says something negative about them, or the moment he's slightly rude, the moment he's anything other than polite, all of a sudden they're fucked. That, like, you were fucked before, and now you're somewhere. Now you're somewhere. Now that you've got her attention, now you're somewhere.
I'll give you an example, right? Maybe you saw my post, right? Like on Twitter last night, which was what was it about? It was a lesson in pettiness and mindfuck. Anyway, basically, this girl sends me nudes. She's like, fucking massive tits, whatever. She's like, I didn't fuck her on the first night, right? But like, she basically already preempted the fact that we're gonna fuck on the second date, right? But I was like, I fucking hate it because it's like, it's not natural. I like it to be kind of like, I like a good narrative where I don't know the ending. But the fact of the matter is, I don't see a girl if I don't fuck her on the first date. So it's like, well, fuck off, right? And she was like, I want to go dinner, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not. Even though I know I'm gonna fuck her, I was like, or even she gave me that bait, I'm not interested, and she couldn't fucking believe it. Then she basically trying to sell me be casual fuck buddies. I'm like, look, with you, I want to be serious. So if like you want to fuck other guys, well, you fucking me, like I'm not interested. Yeah, and she was like, what? She's like, I'm giving him casual sex, and he's not interested. Yeah, exactly right. Like anyway, and like today. She says to me, oh, I still want to see you despite how unpleasant you were. And I'm just like, I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you're red flag central. If a girl tells you you're fucking red flag central, you know that her pussy is fucking wet for you, right?
And you know what I'm going to say now, French, as well. You know what I'm going to say now? That's the reason she wanted to see you. That's the reason why she wanted to see you. She wants to see you because you're red flag central. That's the whole reason.
No, but
that's why she mentioned.
No, but she wanted to see me beforehand.
Yeah.
No, she wanted to see me beforehand, right?
Yeah, but now that's the main
thing.
Oh,
you're charming. Is this, and that? Yeah, like that's the thing, and it's like it's that she loves creating. Well, she didn't really want to create conflict, right? But the fact of the matter is, she's like, she always says you love to be challenged, and I'm like, I fucking hate being challenged. You love to be challenged. You just project that shit on me. For me, I just want like a fucking submissive bitch. I don't need to fucking like spank all the fucking time just to put her back in her place. But when a girl tells you something, always consider it that it's coming from her point of view, not from your point of view, right? And I'm like, look, now if you want to fuck me, you'll have to come straight to mine. I'm not interested. Not interested in seeing you and all this. And the only way for me to be able to pull that shit is because I was basically telling her I'm not fucking moving a fucking iota of where I'm fucking standing. I'm not buying you dinner. I'm not expecting, I'm not going to be a casual fuck buddy. If you want to do something, it's going to be on my terms. And you can accept them or you can't accept them. And that goes back to what Justin was saying, which was be okay to have a girl leave you. Because otherwise, you'll always work under the premise that what you need to do is to appease or placate to a girl, and that will come out in the open at some point.
Yeah, and to anyone listening, I'm going to have to go in a second, by the way. But to anyone listening,
me too.
Listen to what French has just said there. To anyone listening, right? What French did with that girl there, right? That's the higher level shit. The lower level shit is where, oh no, I don't want to jeopardize anything. I'll play everything safe. Higher level shit is always ballsy moves. where you might lose the girl, where the ballsy moves where you step into territory where conflict is created, whether it's whether it's trying to get her to sort of like, skip the date or come around to yours, or whether it's like you're in a relationship with a girl and you want to take things and you want to establish more authority in that relationship. You're not going to be able to do that without taking any risks, without making any ballsy moves, and you're not going to be able to do either of those things if you're afraid of losing her. You have to be in that position that French just described there, where you go, you know what? I'm okay to lose this girl. I am the game. She isn't the game. I am the game. Right. And so I'm just going to make a fucking ballsy move and say, look, this is what I want. Right. And then let her decide. And the moment you do that, if you've done everything right, she will just immediately go, who the hell? Who the hell is this guy? Who is this guy to speak like this? Who is this guy to not be afraid to lose me? He must be someone worthy, right? He must be someone this guy must be cooler than me. This guy must be like, otherwise he wouldn't be so okay with me just exiting his life like that. And that will drive her crazy and it will make her want you. So that's what French said just then.
Yes, and I'll give you an example, very quick example before I let you leave, right? I remember a friend of mine, like Jon Snow, we call him, right? If he watches this, he'll laugh. To be honest, I never understood the concept of Chad until I basically met and started gaming with him, right? Like it was like literally fucking playing on easy mode. But anyway, but still, yeah, he has game, right? And I remember he told me about this story, and I know him, and I believe him when he said this, right? Like literally asked him at a bar to come back to hers, and he declined. That girl been hitting his phone, mental, right? Why? Because if you're literally saying to a girl that you're not interested, even though she already has like, I don't know how many suitors, etc., it's such a high demonstration of value that almost like anyone else in the DMs, like, yeah, fuck off. Like it does like, the imagination of where the guy is, because is so high. That girl that basically I said that to, she's like, you're the first guy that basically would deny that. Like, I'm like, yeah, because you're cunt, because your tits don't fucking control me.
Exactly.
I'm looking at me and can I see myself in the mirror? Anyway, well, look, Chris, do you want to add anything before I wrap up?
No, that's good. I mean, it's been a good stream. We got into some BDSM stuff. I'd like to. I hope Justin comes back on for another podcast at some point, and we could
100%.
yeah, we could really explore some other stuff there as well. But it's always good chatting to you. It's always good. I haven't been able to make the last few podcasts, which I'm quite sad about, but I should be on the next few. So yeah, I'm hoping that you guys at home, you've heard from Justin, who you should go and follow. I think he's mainly on Instagram. If you have Instagram, go and follow him. If you don't have one, make one and then go and follow him. I am Master Zephyr on X, formerly known as Twitter, and you have French OG here, and of course you have the other part of the trident, the three-pronged trident, right? The Dark Triad, you have Leon himself, right? Mr. 007, right? He wasn't here today, right? The energy has been lower as a result of it. But still, we've carried it well, I think. Like, if you're following one of us and not following the rest of us, you're missing out, because between the three of us, you'll have everything you need to know to take control of your dating life and get everything that you want. Okay, straight up. Thanks for having me on, lad.
No worries, man. Chris, always a pleasure to have you, and I look forward to have you on the other streams now that everything is sorted. So, look, guys, appreciate for your viewership. We always really welcome your support. Any type of recommendation, any type of subject that you'd like us to address, we're more than open. So, sorry 007 is not here. Last minute issue. But he's going to come back, and he's going to do the fucking wrap up. The wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Double OG's out. Anyway, see you later, guys.